Welcome to the CodPast podcast, where your fishy past hooks your brilliant future. With Dr. Deborah, Laura, and Dr. Trish.
Hey, we are live. And I know, Trish, you still need to record, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Smart. I'm going to forward us live over to.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody on Facebook. We're just moving the group over to our own personal pages. So we're with you in just 1 second. Personal pages. So we're with you in. All right.
All right, ready?
Yippee.
Laura and Dr. Trish.
Laura.
We're just moving.
Welcome to the CodPast podcast, where your fishy past hooks your brilliant future. With Dr. Deborah, Laura, and Dr. Trish.
Welcome, everybody. We are so excited. We have an amazing guest today, Dr. Paz, and we will be introducing her in just a minute. But as you know, it is our tradition to explain a little bit about what the CodPast is about and to do a fishy joke. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to explain that the CodPast, hooking your fishy past to, wait.
You're the one who made it up. You should know that.
Exploring your fishy past to hook your brilliant future means that not necessarily that your fishy past is bad, but that we all have a past. And a lot of the past things that we decide to bring forward, we get to decide what we want to bring forward, will hook our brilliant future. So we have some amazing guests on here, and today is no exception. But I am going to tell the joke of the day. And because it's Shark Week, which I love Shark Week, it is one of my favorite weeks.
You've gotten me into that. Now I'm having to stay up at night watching it.
Yes, it's so interesting.
It is fascinating.
So my fishy joke is about sharks. Did you hear about the shark ghost?
The shark ghost?
Yes.
The shark ghost. No.
It vanished into thin air.
Oh, that's really funny.
That's really funny.
That's real. That's real. And if you'll notice, we all shop at the dollar store. That's where we get our glasses. And what else do you guys buy at the dollar store? I buy razors.
I don't really buy anything else there.
I buy a lot of stuff there.
You know those big packages of razors from like Schick or Bic or whatever they are? Those things are expensive. They're like $12 or something, and they're $1.
Well, that might just be the catch of the day, as long as it doesn't catch on your shin bone and give you a big old scar.
Dory, my daughter, got me into the dollar store because Dory has to budget everything really, really tight. And she's like, Mom, we need to go to the dollar store. I said, I don't go to the dollar store. Just like I told Laura, I don't go to Goodwill. I'm sorry. And now I'm like, no, if I can't buy it at Goodwill or the dollar store, I'm not going.
So today we're so excited to have an amazing guest, and I'm going to throw it over to Dr. Trish Sanders to introduce Dr. Paz, and take it away, Trish.
Well, I have just recently met Dr. Alicia Paz, and she's really pretty amazing. She has lived in several countries. She came here, I think, from Argentina, but she can tell you that story. And she has such an amazing story that I'm going to let her tell you that. But the things that we have in common is that she too is partnered with Jack Canfield and his CEO, Patty, and the #1 person in Young Living, who is our upline, which is Kathy Farmer. And all four of us have had pretty miraculous things happen because of Young Living essential oils, which the essential oils are the blood of the plant. I've got Joy here too. And what they're finding, my PhD's in vibrational medicine, and what they're doing right now is they're realizing that, wow, these are the ancient medicines that people use for healing, and our Western society, the chemical manufacturers figured out how to replicate these in a lab, but you can't mess with Mother Nature. So like God made them perfect, and then we decide we're going to tinker with them. And so people have all these toxic problems with medicine and toxic chemicals in your house and everything else. And we have gone back to Mother Nature, and in big ways we could talk about forever, but that's our common denominator, is that she's a medical physician, and she's doing tons and tons of work on these essential oils, as well as getting rid of toxicity all around, right? Emotional, physical, disease, etc. And I think that's enough, because she's going to tell her story, and it's going to be jaw-dropping. It's so amazing. But welcome, Dr. Paz. We're so honored to have you, and this will be just the beginning of forever.
Thank you so very much for this kind invitation. I'm so very pleased, and I feel so blessed to be able to be here with these 3 leaders, international leaders, that teach the world so much in such a generous way. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Well, if you want to know a little bit about, and thank you for talking about the toxicity, getting the toxicity out. Yes, as Dr. Trish mentioned, I'm a surgeon. Originally, I'm a medical doctor, a surgeon, and for over 20 years, I actually used aromatherapy with my patients. And recently, I discovered that Mr. Jack Canfield is also into aromatherapy, especially with Young Living. And I have the honor to be part of Mr. Jack Canfield's team, as well as Dr. Trish is. And it's an amazing combination of the knowledge of America's #1 success coach, as well as with the amazing powers that the essential oils have, and that Young Living works so hard into keeping the purity of the product, as Dr. Trish mentioned, the wisdom, the endless wisdom of Mother Earth.
Dr. Paz, I would love to hear your story, because I've not really heard it, and I know some of it with trauma, and I definitely want to get there, but I really would like to know how your last name, which means peace in Spanish, is that a coincidence? Is this your purpose? Can you tell us your story that led you to what you're doing now?
Well, thank you so very much for asking, Laura. I appreciate it. What most people know about me is that I've been an international lecturer. After discovering something, after inventing something in my 20s, I became a millionaire. So I was living in 5-star hotels. I could be in 3 different cities per week. I had a very packed agenda. CEOs will sign to my trainings 6 months in advance, a year in advance. So a very successful life in every possible way. I even was a senior consultant in organizational optimization for large organizations, including the World Banks and projects for helping development countries to get a better quality of life. And whatever seemed to be a very successful life out there actually was not that perfect. I didn't know that. I thought I was in a safe and happy marriage. And then I discovered I was not. I discovered I was not safe. So I had 2 options. I could
Well, Dr. Paz, wasn't your husband a banker?
Exactly. Thank you.
And that's my background. And I want to point it out, because an awful lot of people in some industries, and this is not everybody, I wasn't like what I'm going to say, but bankers are taught to be pretty ruthless in some ways. And I worked with a lot of those people, and they were kind of programmed. I don't know what's with my video. I don't know. God is wanting me to turn off my video or something. But I was in that industry for so long, and people are taught to be ruthless. People are taught to take advantage of people. And I think the number one book when I was a young banker, was Winning by Intimidation. So that kind of ruthless behavior, they act like they're not going to die and there's not a heaven to go out there, all these other people we can't see we're this big in the universe, and they think that everything's about them. It's so weird. But I want to point that out because I think it's a big part of this story. So go ahead. I sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Thank you for making that comment. So yes, when I met my husband, he was the vice president of a bank. So it made perfect sense that he took care of my assets. And that's what I did. I trusted him with my life. That's why I married him. And I trusted him with my assets as well. So he controlled every piece of my assets. And when I found out that I was living in a domestic violence situation, I felt so much confusion and I had no idea what to do, because I did notice I was not safe with him. Literally, my life was not safe. So I had two options. I could stay in a marriage trying to gain control of my assets. And was that smart? I don't think it was. So the other option I had was what I did, taking a leap of faith in God, in love, and in me. I moved to a different state. I moved as far away from him as possible. For getting freedom, I had to become homeless. So overnight, I went from millionaire to homeless. And that was the step I needed to take for regaining my freedom and for being safe. And I feel very proud I did that. It was a very bold action. Tony Robbins talks about actions, bold actions. I took a very bold action. Mr. Jack Canfield also talks about taking 100% responsibility of your life. And that's what I did. I took 100% responsibility of my situation. I jumped, I made this leap of faith, and I started a full-time job in self-discovery, because how me, a senior consultant, a successful senior consultant, international known, how did I not know? How did I not notice I married an abuser? How did I not notice I was living in a domestic violence situation? So it was a lot of thinking, analysis, surprise. So I started applying in me what I had been applying into organizations. And after 30 years of research, that's how ISmileFromMyHeart was developed. I learned how to get aligned with my inner freedom. I learned how to get aligned with my peace. And now I develop a system, a very simple 3-step system to get aligned with the truth of who I am. So this truth, this endless power of the universe can be manifested on me and on everything around me. And that's how I became a magnet, and my life just changed again. And I learned every step of the way how to pivot what seems to be chaos to peace. So I can live feeling I smile from my heart.
I love that. Are you on stages teaching people that? Do you have a program that you sell?
Yes, thank you for asking. I have several programs. I'm actually I became a mental health peer specialist in this whole rebirthing experience that I've had. I found a way to serve other trauma survivors, and I've been serving domestic violence survivors. I've been serving also suicide survivors. I've been serving cancer survivors and families affected by cancer because I'm a cancer survivor myself. And I have learned how cancer does not define me. And I can live feeling with an active diagnosis of cancer. Despite of that, I can live feeling I smile from my heart and feel cancer free. So those are
So you have really proven our byline that these guys made up to take your fishy past and hook your brilliant future. So your freedom, where I think a lot of people who are living a millionaire or billionaire's life would not think it's very much freedom to go to homeless. They would think, oh, well, that's not freedom because I can't pay for things. I can't be in whatever car I want. I can't have the friends I am used to having. And so that's not freedom. But the truth is that you chose to jump off of the cliff and know that there was a net down there because God always has our back. The universe conspires to help us find our dreams. And sometimes that trust of, are you sure you're looking out for me here? Like, I don't feel very safe, you know? And all the universe says is just trust me. You know, God says, hang on, just trust me. Jesus, all the way through the Bible says, you know, you can have any miracle you want, where two or more gathered, just ask the mountain to move. You can do it. You guys are strong. You have the exact same stuff I do. But people, you know, for all kinds of reasons, mostly stupid, don't want to trust. But you have shown this leap of faith that I don't know if I've ever heard a story, a leap of faith. I think all of us have taken leaps of faith, but I don't think I've ever heard one like that. I mean, that one is giant. And so, you know, and don't you think that right now in society, if you talk to very many millionaires or billionaires, they say the one thing I want is freedom. I just want to be free. I feel like I'm tied to this life, to this lifestyle, to this mess that I created, and I just want some freedom. Uh-oh, now Laura's blanked out. I don't know. Our glitchy, the technology glitches have been going on lately. Well, so what do you think about that demonstration of faith? And then could you give us an example of how you, like, how does your program work, or what would you do with one person in front of you?
Thank you so much for asking. And actually, that's part of what I teach. I thought, and actually there was something that happened to me. I was in a 5-star hotel and I had a team of between 14 to 20 people. That was my inner circle. I had 3 or 4 people taking care of my phone calls. I will not take my phone calls. And I was in this very nice California king bed, and I noticed, is this actually freedom, what I'm living? That was the first time I questioned that, because my time was so carefully taken care of. I knew today what I was going to do in a year from now. That's how my agenda was very structured. In every country I went, in every place I was going to give a training. And that was the first time I actually questioned whether, if having all this money. And
when was that? Like, how long before you actually jumped did you have that thought?
It was not long before that. It was very, very close to that. And that helped me. I totally think that what happened after was because I had already started my process of waking up.
Yep.
And when I did this leap of faith that I just described, something amazing happened. I used to be the planner, the controller, a control freak. Have you ever felt you need to control every single detail so things actually work? That was me, and I was great at that. That's why it was paid so much.
Yeah.
For companies, for departments, for many, if I even run different projects in different countries at the same time. So it was at controlling. And when I noticed about this domestic violence situation, I prayed and I asked God, what do you want me to do? What is my next step? And I saw a city and he said, no, you must be wrong. I told God, you must be wrong because I have never lived there. I've been in the airport many times, but I've never lived there. I don't have friends there. I don't have family there. Why am I receiving this? So I prayed again and I received the same message again. At the third time, this was continuous. At the third time, I said, well, I just surrendered. I humbly surrendered and said, well, if you're telling me to go there, I'll go there. I packed my things in a suitcase and I moved. And I learned about the freedom, and that's what I teach now. I teach 3 freedoms. I teach freedom to be your true self instead of the things that you think you are, instead of the limiting beliefs that you have had so far. So I teach the freedom to be your true self. I teach the freedom to do what your truly self wants to do and is called to do, which is your purpose, your God-given purpose, your love-given purpose. So instead of doing what the unconscious mind is used to do because of the limiting beliefs that we have been taught. So that's the second freedom I teach, freedom to do what your true self needs to do and is called to do. And the third freedom is freedom to be more successful than you have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Freedom to have more success that you have ever even dreamed of. Because have you ever done a vision board? And even though you work and you make the calls and you take the actions and you do the exercises, etc., somehow the vision board doesn't seem to work. Has that ever happened to you? That happened to me many times. Do you know why is that? Because we're used to do our vision boards from our limiting beliefs, thinking patterns. So that's part of what I teach with I Smile from My Heart. I teach to get aligned with the true self. So we get aligned with the endless power, with the endless creativity, with the endless strength, with the endless truth of who we are. So we become a magnet. So when we do the vision board, being aligned with the truth of who we are, what we put in our vision board is not what we think we need. It's not what we think we want. It's what love wants for us to do as part of our love-given purpose. So for as long as we stay aligned, which is what I Smile from My Heart teaches, we get every single thing that is in our vision board. And that's how I turn my life back to power, to success, and that's why I'm here today.
Wow. Where do you live right now?
Houston, Texas. Nice, warm, and sunny Houston, Texas.
Hot,
Was that-
hot, and muggy.
Is that the city that came to you when you're like, no, are you sure?
That would be me. Like, come on, no, not Houston, please. Do you know that Houston is one of the most powerful cities in the world? And do you know why?
Tell me, please, why?
Because it's one of the biggest ports of entry in the entire world. And so more goes on without people knowing it from those ports of entry than anybody has ever heard of. The ships are bigger. They have bigger transport things. And yeah, it's it's really great that you're there because you're anchoring peace. And I've been in peace work my whole life, including the World Bank. And the thing I know about Houston is that we all have to pray for what goes on there, because there's a lot of kind of mischief that gets traded back and forth in those crates. And it's so big, there's no way to monitor it. There's no way. And so, they've beefed up some of the monitoring, but it's just kind of impossible. And I think, we're fervent prayers. We pray together all, many times during the day. And I think that sometimes things are so complicated, you just have to pray them away, because nobody in a human form is going to figure out the complexity of that thing. And Houston is one of those things.
That is so interesting. I didn't know that at all.
Houston's powerful. It's kind of like Phoenix here. It's like people make references to what's going on in Houston. It's mostly pretty high level people, because no one knows this unless you are in, the FBI, or you are in one of the big corporations that move stuff, about Houston. But a typical person would not read about Houston. And that's kind of like what's going on right now. Like, we've got this, I think, giant awakening. Have you guys all read Untethered Soul?
Mm-hmm. Changed my life.
I used to have it.
To me too. And you remind me. Have you read that, Dr. Paz?
I haven't had the opportunity yet.
You would love it.
No,
Dr.
he's
Paz.
speaking through you. He is speaking through your mouth, because I've gone down another rabbit hole this week. I mean, every week it's something else, but Michael
Singer.
Michael Singer is the writer of that book. And in the 70s, I think 1976 maybe, he created the University of Peace and Meditation and Yoga, I think, in Florida. And he has been doing his kind of quiet work, doing exactly what you say. Trust. It's kind of like Laura and Deborah and I, we've been playing around with just say yes. Don't use this against me if anybody's out there. I mean, I won't listen to you ask me a question if you use this against me, but kind of saying yes to whatever shows up and trusting the process. Mm-hmm. And he says that the alignment, or the second coming, or when God gets a hold of you, a lot of people think that it has to do with your diet, or meditating 6 hours a day, or going off in the desert for 40 hours or 40 days or whatever. And he said that has nothing to do with it. Everything is just trying to point you back to the alignment of love. And that when you have love and it comes out of your heart, like you said, smile from my heart, and you start living that what Marianne Williamson says, that the universe will conspire to give you more than your dreams could ever think possible. And Laura just has been our biggest teacher for the last couple of months, because she had a massive fire. It destroyed most of her belongings from her childhood on, and her children's childhood. And she trusted the universe. She's like, and of anybody in my life, I would have not thought Laura would do this, because Laura was attached to her things. Like almost nobody. I mean, she loved every little morsel of thing that she had from her high school, from her kids' high school, that was one of the things I loved about Laura, is she just didn't get rid of stuff, because she loved everything. And I was like, I'm just going to get rid of everything so that I can get rid of some of her stuff through my stuff. And so we were doing this opposite spectrum. And when she had the fire, I immediately started to cry, because I thought, oh no, this might destroy Laura, right? because Laura was had all these tethers, and she just went, no, I think I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to cut these cords, because they don't, it's just what you said about cancer. These things don't define me. I've got a new life out there waiting. And to watch her go through something that most people never get over. They live that fire the rest of their lives. Oh, you know, everything I ever had was destroyed in my fire. And I have a friend like that. And I'm like, if you tell me one more thing about that fire, and I mean, the fire's been like 9 years old, but all she does is talk about the fire every day, every day, every day. Every day something will come up and she'll go, well, you know, I had that and it was destroyed in my fire. And you're just like,
Yeah. Oh my
and
gosh.
that's what people with cancer, they're like, yes, I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer 30 years ago, you know, and yes, and it was devastating. And, you know, they get into the story again. So they just repeat everything they went through. And Michael has been doing a lot of videos lately about the awakening has to do with you're in alignment of complete trust that in this moment, I'm living this moment in my maximum way. And I'm not going to be defined by a story, by yesterday, by, you know, a bad relationship, by whatever it is. It's like, no, this is the moment I have. And so I'm going to enjoy this one. And, you know, we're not taught this stuff. We're taught to be afraid of a fear, right? Just keep it down. Just keep saying some affirmations and don't look at it. But the truth is that that thing is trying to get out. So the thing that's scaring you, just go, oh, I see. You're trying to freak me out. Okay, fine. Just go at it. And we've got these oils that, you know, you can sit and go, all right, I'm going to breathe this while you scare me. So go ahead. I'm breathing. Breathe, deep breath. And you are doing Michael Singer's work.
Yeah, the book is it's amazing how he talks about how to, and it's a lot about your limiting beliefs, what you were talking about. And that's one question I had when you were talking about your vision board. Okay, so here's my vision board, right? And on the back, it has all the things I want. And you were talking about that this vision board, it came from all my limiting beliefs. And I, if you would indulge us just a little bit more on the vision boards or these limiting beliefs, what is it that you might see on a vision board that comes from a limiting belief, and what would replace that? Like what's the process a little bit about that? I'm very curious about that, because I've done vision boards my whole life. I have a bunch of them.
Can I interject in this, because it's a big this is a big question and something. So what would you say the percentage is of you getting the things on your vision board, Deborah? What is with us? Yeah, I mean, do you get most of them or not? Or
I get a lot of them, but you know, there's a lot that I've had on vision board after vision board after vision board that I don't have yet. So I'd be interested.
And so you know, you and I are gonna, I'm sure, do a lot of things together, Dr. Paz. And so one of the things, I've been teaching vision boards since I was about 20, because AT&T taught us, and you know, we had some Disney stuff. And we go through, the way we do it is that we don't choose a picture. We flip through a huge group of magazines really fast. And if something jumps, we just tear it out and put it upside down, and we try not to even think about that. And then at the end of that tearing, then we turn them over and we see, are there any patterns? Is there a lot of blue? Is there a lot of, you know, dollar glasses or whatever? And so the process I learned was to try to trick the subconscious to come out instead of the conscious. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. And that was part of the techniques that I used before developing my own technique. So Deborah, I'm sure that you have been successful and you have achieved many things on your vision boards. because some part of you has been aligned. And that's why part of the vision boards were done work, and actually we achieve them. The reason why we don't achieve 100% of the vision boards is because we have not been totally aligned. And that's what I teach. I teach how to become totally aligned. So what happens is that we learn to develop this intuition. So when we are aligned with the truth and we let love manifest through us, what happens is that what seems to be a coincidence is not a coincidence. Synchronicities happen in our life, and those are not coincidences. Those are God senses, which is God expressing in every step of the way. So that image that we find in the magazine that Trish describes doesn't come out of coincidence, comes because we are calling it, because we become this magnet of love. So God, love manifests in our life every step of the way, whether we notice that or not. So what happens when love manifests in our life is that, for example, our goals may be different. Let me give you an example. Sometimes talking about attachment, sometimes we're so attached that we say, oh, I'm going to be happy when I get this watch made of gold and diamonds. That's what's going to make me happy. Once we learn to get aligned, maybe that gold watch will not be that interesting for us. Maybe our vision board will not have that watch and will have something else, like true love, like how can I serve my purpose, like how can I have a better relationship with myself and with the people I love. So that's part of the vision board difference between being aligned and not being totally aligned.
Dr. Paz, that reminds me when the fire first happened in May, there was a lot of confusion. It was pretty catastrophic. So my husband and son stayed in Virginia, and it was recommended to me that I go to Utah. And about a weekend, I guess it was, I called Trish because the people who collect your possessions came in and started collecting our possessions. And by that, I mean, collecting them to either say they survived the fire or they didn't. They're cleanable, they're not. And at first my husband misunderstood and just thought it was our clothes, the textiles, but it wasn't. They came in and they just commandeered everything. And I was in Utah, and talk about control. I'm a controlling person. But what I called, and I'd be really curious, it seems like this is what you're saying. I called Trish and she was like, oh, we've got to go to DC. We need to stop this. And I'm like, no, I just want to make peace with what's happening. I wanted to make peace with those people coming into my house, because that feels kind of icky. It's like, that's my stuff. Well, as it turns out, it's not my stuff. It's God's stuff, because it's really, even though you can see it, it's really gone. I would say it's 100% gone. Maybe one or two things will come out of it. But I think trying to make peace with whatever is happening in the moment is part of the solution. And is that what you're talking about with alignment?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of it. And thank you so much. I'm very happy that you had this perfect acceptance of the situation, so you could use the situation instead of being something that happened to you. You use the situation for this is something that happened for you.
Yes.
So how can I learn from this experience? And that's part of the I Smile from My Heart practice. How can I feel in this situation that I smile from my heart? What do I need to release? How can I use this situation for letting go? What can I let go from this situation? Instead of getting,
well, when she called me, this was maybe her fire for my lesson, because when she called me, you know, what am I? I don't know. I've been CEO my whole life of something. And so I'm take control, fix it, get it done. Right. And I had this huge epiphany this morning, probably thinking about you being on the show. When I opened schools, I said, we can't be anti anything. It was kind of like from Mother Teresa, we've got to be for peace, not anti-war. So when they would go, well, we're going to put up non-smoking, you know, things on the, I'm like, no, we're going to put no drugs, no sex, no pregnancy. And I'm like, no, we're not. No, we're not anti anything. But in my life, you know how you were saying that you weren't taking your own advice? It was this epiphany this morning that I realized that I told everybody, don't be anti anything. Laura calls me, you won't believe it, they're taking all my stuff. And I said, Laura, stop them now. You call them right now. We're going to get some lawyers on this. We're going to get in there. We're going to go over there. We're going to talk to them. Right. And so what do? I go to war. Right. Oh. No, do I listen to, I am never anti about anything. No. Right away, I go to war and I start fighting. I'm going to fight this. This is not proper. This is not right. My friend is getting hurt, you know. And it was an epiphany that I realized everything in my personal life was a fight. When I was in those schools, I fought the system. I fought the charter boards. I fought the churches who were having church schools and not doing it right. I fought the people that were hurting the kids. I fought the police for coming in and trying to get the kids. You know, I had fights going on at home, and all I was doing was fighting all the time for survival. I was I was literally killing everybody trying to rescue me. I was trying to drown, and I was fighting for my life because I thought, I'm going to make sure that those schools are never anti. But I was completely anti. And when Laura did that, and in 1 minute, when I was going crazy and my heart was just, you know, flooding out to her. And she said, well, Trish, I want to make peace with this moment. And I went, oh shit. I never got.
She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And I was like, she's right. She is so right. And I never put together until this morning, because you were going to be on, that in the last 20 years, all I've done is been anti. That's it.
Wow, that's a huge epiphany.
I've been anti-conspiracy. I've been anti-banking. I've been anti-World Bank. I've been anti-lawyers, because I was going to control everything for the good of all, right? To try to save the children, save the healthcare system, save charities, you know. I'm going to go and I'm going to keep this all back so I can fight for justice. Well, guess who was fighting? Me.
So Dr. Paz, how do you flip that? How do you flip to from anti to, like Trish said, to for you, instead of, I look at it as being a victim. If you think it's happening to me, you're a victim. And I don't like that energy. It's very low energy, level 1. It's very, you know, used for very small purpose. But so how do you flip that?
Well, thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much, Trish, for sharing, because yes, what you were experiencing, Trish, is exactly what I had been experiencing my whole life. I thought of myself as an advocate, I've been working with cancer patients for over 20 years. I've been working with homeless people for over 30 years. I've been working with underprivileged patients for over 30 years as well, since I graduated from high school at age 14. So my whole life has been fighting for someone else. So it seemed like I did it for the right reasons, right? Like Trish is saying. So what used to happen was that I had a very structured, very rigid way of being, because I thought I was right. I was right. And the other ones were wrong. So now with I Smile from My Heart, I've learned that the real power is in surrendering.
Amen. I'm sorry. I am going to interrupt here because the day it happened, I happened to be in La Jolla with Deborah at a Boeisen event about storytelling, and they had their storyteller writer on there as well as a psychologist. So I was able to process as much as I could because it's shocking news. And then a couple days later, I was talking to the story coach, and she said, your flood story is about strength. This is about surrendering. And I'm like, surrender? Like, I don't do that. You know, that's not me, you know, please. But you're so right, because there's beauty in surrender. There are just some things you have to surrender to. And it's not worth it to be strong, because you're going to get sick. You're going to make yourself sick from being so strong. So I'm so glad you used that word. Please carry on.
Oh, I love that, Dr. Paz. I mean, I literally just had a paradigm shift about a few things in my life that I've been trying to control, and even though I know that doesn't work that way, I'm trying to control X, Y, and Z, and I am just going to surrender X, Y, and Z.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for mentioning also the word power and strength, because this is what we've been taught. And I want to go back real quick to Trish. And what happens is that, that what you were describing, Trish, is the classic brain that takes us to the alarm. A part of our brain, and I'll be happy to give another much longer explanation some other day, is triggered. When we were a primitive person, thousands of years ago, our brain was always watching, okay, is a tiger gonna eat me? Is a bear gonna eat me? So that part of our brain has been triggered and usually has been in control. So that's why we're always on the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And that's why we become control freaks, because we think we need to control things so they work. So we think,
but when we try to do it on behalf of others, we feel empowered. We feel like I am doing
Righteous.
Righteous. I'm doing this for Laura. I'm doing this for the children. I'm doing this for my husband. I'm doing this for my children. Meanwhile, you're losing your life.
yes.
And actually, it's interesting, Dr. Paz, because it's fight, flight, and freeze. So Laura would be the freezer, Trish would be the flight, and I'd be the fight. But really, we're all three of us, all three of those things.
Run away, run away, run away.
Yes. So what happens is that we think we need to control things in order to not be attacked, because we're thinking from lack. We're thinking from the perception of lack. We're thinking from the perception of, I am not safe. So when we think and we feel from the perception, I am not safe, I need to defend myself. I need to attack anyone and everyone because I am right, they are wrong. And that is exhausting. That is exactly as going into the sea in this very rigid, very structured way. And when the waves come and hit us, we need to stay this straight, this rigid. That's exhausting, right? Anyone has been there?
Mm-hmm.
That's exhausting. So what I have learned is that my real power and my real strength is in surrendering.
Oh, I have goosebumps all over.
Surrendering is
well, and it takes more courage, doesn't it?
Yes. And surrendering is not a sign of weakness. It's exactly the opposite. We have been taught that surrendering is a sign of weakness. And guess why is that? Because we don't trust God.
Do you know what? I just had another aha I want to ask about. This is amazing. We should do this as a workshop. You know, I just thought, I wonder if the whole feminist movement actually did a disservice to women, because I just remembered that one of my friends, Lorraine and Scott, and Scott's going to speak. We have an amazing program on Monday and Tuesday that I think will be world changing, honest to Pete. And because these men are really strong, there's an oil for him is the name of it. And one of the people that is going to talk is Lorraine's husband, Scott Wright. And Scott is sort of, he doesn't call himself this, but I think he's kind of a shaman. He's got Native American blood, and he's just very wise, but he used to be a banker. And they were talking to me about how much they love each other and how good their marriage is, and what they work at it all the time. They read a book in the morning, and then they read a book at night, and they read to each other, and they're always learning. And we were talking about sex, because I always think everything kind of boils down to you know, the sexual exploitation and causing DNA damage from your ancestors because of some broken down lower chakra in yoga, you know. And so I'm always curious about it. And I said, you guys, what do you think the key is to how great your sexual life is, and also how great your marriage is, and how that all shows up? And they both said a very strange thing, because Lorraine was one of the top executives at American Express. You talk about a control freak, and always perfect, and always dressed exactly like American Express, IBM, you know, person. She was very, very tight, very tight. I've known her a long time. They both said at the same time, surrender. She said, you know, when we're making love, there's just this moment that I just don't want to be anything or do anything. I just want to surrender to Scott. And and he kind of said the same thing. I think their thing was that the male female dynamic was that he kind of got to do whatever he wanted to do. I mean, I'm sure it's more complicated than this, but I'll never forget it, because I look up to them in many ways. And I thought, I wonder if the whole women's movement that gave me the ability to be CEO and this and that also taught us, you can't surrender. That's against the whole women's race.
It was all about fighting. Fight this, fight that, fight this,
that.
fight
Those
that.
men are nothing. You know, those men are
not good. It was not good.
And I'm wondering about that surrender in the most intimate, tiny little moment in your head. If a woman is like, you're not gonna, you know, bleh, and if it just kind of messes things up.
Can you give an example of surrender, Dr. Paz? Like maybe an example of true surrender. I can say, oh, I surrender that I'm not going to try to control that, but give an example of true surrender.
Every single thing. Let me tell you the formula. I'm going to give you the present of, let you know, the 3-step to feel all the time. I smile from my heart, because it's not about not having problems or not having troubles or not having the tendency of controlling. It's about how to let go. Let me tell you this first. So I already told you that it used to be this straight, structure, rigid person going into the water, going into the sea. And when the waves came, of course, it was painful. Now I'm not like that. Now I'm like a leaf. So when the water comes, when the tides come, they just go through. I don't get engaged. I don't get attached. So they just, the emotions, whatever emotion is, fear, anger, whatever, just flows. And I learned to flow with this formula that I'm going to share with you. The letters are adapt. ADAPTC, adapt. 3 steps, very simple. The ground rule, the base of this, the fundament of this is acknowledgement. I acknowledge. I acknowledge. What do I acknowledge? The truth. I acknowledge the truth. So I learn and I develop the practice of acknowledging the truth instead of believing these least limiting beliefs that I've had. So instead of the thoughts, I acknowledge the truth. So first, acknowledge. First step. What do I acknowledge? That I deserve. I deserve. I deserve love because I was created by love. So I deserve love. I deserve to be loved. And I deserve to love. This is the truth. This is not a thought. This is not a perception. This is the fact. This is the truth. I deserve. Then, second, I accept the love that I am and the love that God is giving me all the time, unconditionally. So the second is I accept. A. In the acceptance, there is another part that is so important, which is that I permit. That's where P comes from. I permit. I permit love be expressed through me. I permit. So I get myself out of the way, because every single time that I have thought, God has not given me what I want. Maybe God has been trying to give me what I need. And I've been in the middle, and I have not allowed, I have not permitted God's miracles in my life.
Wow.
So I permit. That's where P comes from. So step 2 is I accept and I permit. Step 3, T. T from I thank. I thank because God is loving me unconditionally, always. I may not be seeing that, so I need to develop the practice of seeing God's blessings in every situation, as Laura did with the fire. So the third step, I thank, that's T. And the final letter is C. I celebrate. I celebrate. So I live in a constant state of joy, of celebration, because I smile from my heart when I acknowledge God's love in my life. I smile from my heart when I'm aligned with the truth. So I let God's love be expressed through me every step of the way. When I do this, only good things happen to me. I attract good things. I attract good people. So I don't have to fight against anyone. I don't have to fight against the rules. I don't have to fight against a system. Because somehow the love that I am living and that I am enjoying and that I'm expressing connects me with these synchronicities of other people that are perfectly aligned with the love that they are. So
That's
struggles,
amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I see
Wow.
Trish and Deborah taking notes. I'm the one that usually renders this up and gets it on YouTube. So I'll be taking notes later. I just wanted to wash over me. And gosh,
So
what-
aligning synchronicities with other people. I just love that. Attracting, letting God be expressed through me. And we're all very spiritual. I love God more than anything. And that is a great. Dr. Paz, thank you so much for this wisdom. And also, you can tell you're smiling from your heart. But I just love how you teach too. You are a good teacher, very good teacher. And I will be, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I was ready for you today, and I think we all were, and all our audience was going to say the same.
Yeah.
Oh, so
which
excited.
reminds me,
So-
'cause we're heading over to Clubhouse next, and there I will ask one of my. I've been so absorbed in all that you've taught us. I haven't even asked my typical question. We'll leave them with a cliffhanger going over to Clubhouse after this and talking to you there. And our audience usually chimes in and asks questions too. So this has just been phenomenal. Thank you so much, Dr. Paz.
It's been a blessing to meet you. Just a blessing.
Yeah. So we'll see you over at Clubhouse. I see that you're already on Clubhouse because I already invited you and you got your little heart there and I love it. So
We're
you
going to
guys
go
have,
over to
does everybody
CodPast
have
podcast.
everybody
Go ahead.
has the link.
I
Yeah.
have the
Okay. We're going to close out this Facebook. We'll see you guys over at Clubhouse and you can actually talk to Dr. Paz. And this was a fabulous. Wow, what a bunch of synchronicities. Woo-hoo.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Love you
Have a good
guys.
week,
Just
everyone.
remember,
See you in
for feeling